Hey, I'm Ryan, and I'm making a colorful indie game inspired by Samurai Champloo and Sekiro. Steam link is down in the description. I've been documenting my progress for over a year now, and I believe I've made some really great strides in terms of style, gameplay, and overall game feel. So I figured I'd take a break from the monthly devlogs and instead show an exact, realistic amount of work that I've put into the game in the last 6 months. It's been somewhat of a grind. Working a separate full-time job as well as everyday life has stunted progress lately, but I've really tried to focus and push through and find time for the project. My motivation and overall drive to finish Colorful Katana hasn't faltered, is really what I'm trying to say. I'm gearing up into the polish and content portion of development, as I want to push out a demo sometime this year. I feel that's a realistic goal, and I'll keep you updated on any and all progress I make. The main issue I'd been running into was that Colorful Katana felt like a tech demo of sorts, just a combination of a few unfinished systems with an emphasis on combat, but that's about it. The art and NPCs and towns made it feel more alive, but digging deeper revealed how hollow the game actually was. So, I made it a goal of mine to give the game life for 6 straight months. Let's hop into what I've been working on. Probably the biggest part of the game that I've neglected over the course of development is also my least favorite part of game development, UI. It's been the bane of my existence over the years, and this theme continued over the course of the first month. The process sucked, but the end result is something I'm proud of. In the first 2 months specifically, I worked on an inventory and merchant system. When talking to a merchant, you'll get a slick screen transition that brings you to a buy screen. You can buy general items or abilities from merchants across the world. Buy an item, exchange some money, and it will appear in your inventory. The inventory opens with a similarly slick paint transition. This inventory allows for items to be consumed and also displays necessary item info and descriptions. It's a simple system, but it does what it needs to do. In regards to questing, quests can be initialized from dialogue and are pinned in the top right corner of the screen. More detail is available in the settings, and new quests can be pinned and unpinned. Ignore the weird quest UI overlay on the top right, that's a bug I have to fix. But otherwise, the system is simple and it works. As you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, I also plan to work on a map and waypoint system in the future, which should really tie the whole UI together. Stay tuned for that in a coming devlog. Besides that, I've worked heavily on implementing health, an ability meter, and dodge stamina into the UI. Really not much to report on health and stamina, it's pretty standard fare. The ability points though I'll get deeper into later in the video when I talk about my implementation of player abilities. But the most important addition I did last. I ended up adding footsteps to the player at the end of the 3rd month.
Before I move on to the next month, I mentioned before that my software developer day job takes up the majority of my free time. Luckily, this programming job essentially funds the development of my game, which I would suggest to any aspiring indie dev. Growing your programming skills could afford you that same luxury, and that brings me to the sponsor of this video, Brilliant. Brilliant helps you get smarter every day, with thousands of interactive lessons in math, science, programming, data analysis, and AI. Great developers don't just memorize. They build, test, and iterate, and that's exactly how Brilliant teaches. Instead of passive lectures, you'll solve interactive problems. This hands-on approach is 6 times more effective than traditional learning. Whether it's AI or a basic for loop, Brilliant helps you break down topics from the ground level. I've been particularly interested in their neural network course, and with the gamified challenges and daily streaks, learning feels more like leveling up than studying. Plus, all content is crafted by experts from Microsoft, Google, and more. With Brilliant's newly updated programming courses, you'll develop problem-solving skills to stay ahead in programming. Learn to think like a coder by breaking down large-scale problems into manageable chunks. Build an intuition for computer logic through real-world debugging and design. And with hands-on Python projects, you'll start coding from day 1. Again, if you're an aspiring game developer who wants to learn the basics of coding, Brilliant is a great place to start. Alternatively, if you're a more experienced developer, Brilliant has higher-level courses ranging from AI to data science. Personally, I think it's perfect for keeping your programming skills fresh as someone with a full-time software engineering job. I find myself becoming rusty when it comes to interview-style programming questions, and Brilliant is a great companion in that regard, keeping me at the top of my game. To try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/studioyarn. Scan the QR code on screen, or you can always click on the link in the description. You'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. Check it out. And thank you to Brilliant for sponsoring this video.
In month 4, I focused pretty specifically on music. Since my game is inspired by Samurai Champloo, I knew I wanted a hip-hop influence in the music. I decided on a particular artist who specializes in lo-fi hip-hop, which I thought would be perfect for wandering the open world. I built a system that plays music at random time intervals if the player is exploring and not at any major points of interest in the game. I feel like the lo-fi fits great for moments of downtime. In contrast, the combat music is fast and kinetic. And a separate track for the boss. I also typed up a script that plays a specified song on trigger, which is perfect for town background music. In my opinion, these changes, especially in combat, really make a difference in regards to game feel. In month 5, I brainstormed how I would make the open world feel more alive and busy. I already had a random music system, so I decided to expand that into a random event system. As of now, I've implemented 4 random events. Firstly, music, which you've seen. Next, I did a patrol event, which randomly spawns a patrol of enemies along your path to deal with. This patrol always contains a random combination of enemies, in order to keep things fresh. Next, I made an event where your companion can randomly find coins or an item, inspired by games such as BioShock Infinite. A companion hasn't been implemented yet, but the event is working as intended. And finally, a random animal spawn event. I'll dive the deepest into the animals since they took the longest time to make. I added a handful of animals such as foxes, rabbits, raccoons, and birds to find in the game that are randomly scattered around the world. These animals idle and walk around their spawn area, and run away from you if you get close enough. Plus, if you're a heartless jerk, you can slice them in half. I don't condone that though. These little guys add a good amount of variety to exploring the world, which it desperately needed, in my humble opinion. The 6th and final month was probably my most productive, the main goal being to add some diversity in regards to combat mechanics. I did some brainstorming and realized the easiest way to do this was to add player abilities that the player could unlock and purchase, which would doubly improve the feeling of game progression as a bonus. So I settled on 2 abilities for the coming demo, the first being a colorful smoke bomb and the second being a fast-paced breakdance, lethal of course. The way the abilities work is pretty simple. Every enemy kill gives the player a resource called flow, which powers their ability bar. After abilities are purchased, they can be equipped in the vinyl weapon wheel menu, which you can see on screen. Pretty slick if I say so myself. Once equipped, the selected ability will appear next to the flow meter. The little white bar signifies the cost of the ability, so if the player has enough flow, the bar will light up purple and the ability can be used. The colorful smoke bomb stuns nearby enemies and leaves them in a vulnerable state for a few seconds, making it excellent for crowd control or a fast escape. For the sake of visual variety, the smoke bomb changes colors every time it's used. The whirlwind breakdance ability is basically exactly what it sounds like. It's a stylish insta-kill, but it uses up more flow than the smoke bomb. I'll have to balance the flow points per ability, but I'm not worried about that right now. What matters is that the system works and is quite polished for a first go around. I'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas for more abilities down the road. Anyways, last but not least, I added some stylish game feel for the player getting hit. I'm thinking about adding a record scratch sound effect as well, which should tie the effect together. Whenever the player dies, I added a little death cinematic too, which I also intend to juice up with sound effects. I'm happy with how much more cinematic this ended up making Colorful Katana's combat feel. But yeah, 6 months later, I'm able to look back and see the solid amount of progress I've made on the game, which honestly has been very motivating. Like I mentioned before, my main goal from here on out is to polish up the game and release a demo for you all to try. So yeah, full steam ahead on that. I'll continue to release update videos, but at a slower cadence than once a month like before. If you like or hate any of the changes I've made, make sure to drop that feedback in the comments section. And as always, if you want to support the project, you can wishlist Colorful Katana on Steam. It's a gigantic help. Also, do the YouTube stuff too. See ya!